Hey everyone. So before we start the segment, I want to get really clear about something. I am not talking about this situation to bag on anybody. I'm not talking about this situation to talk shit. And I don't want any future partners of mine to think that this is the norm. I also want to be really clear that if you know about the person in question, to leave them the f*** alone. Now granted, due to some of the shenanigans that have happened, my belief is that this person's probably going to be long gone. But the reality is that I would like this person left alone. I do not ever want anyone harassed for any reason. We think we've made that very clear on this channel.
You don't do mob justice.
Yeah, we don't do retributive mob justice. We think it's cringe.
And it will never accomplish any of the goals that we actually want.
Real leftists don't do that. There. So, here's the situation. I talked about on stream when I was by myself about my excitement for a date that I was having. A very beautiful trans woman contacted me via DMs and wanted to go out with me, and we did. And it was a thing. I'm going to call her Loopy for the purposes of this, because it's funny to me. So, the date with Loopy was awkward. It was good. There was good flirting. It was nice shit, but Loopy was a little bit, loopy. The discussion had these moments where it felt like there were these really unnecessary boundaries, and they felt like they were just like, to be honest, if I want to judge, they're trauma boundaries. They felt like they were just boundaries where you put them in places that don't make sense entirely. And so I found myself really liking this person, but also kind of being a little bit uncomfortable with some of the ways that they were framing what I was saying. Namely that I was trying to get connections and understand, okay, well, you know, if we were to date, you live in another state, how do we make that work? And there was a lot of sort of deflecting of that, like that was too early, this was too early or something. Now, before I go on, the format of this is going to be, I'm going to tell you the story as I remember it. I could have things wrong. I don't care. I can't look back at the stuff because I can't look up the logs because this person has utterly blocked me and everything else has disappeared. So you're going to have to take my word on it as far as I can, my memory can work. I'm trying to be as fair as everybody as possible. Then Xena's going to speak about their experience of it. And then finally, I'm going to try to paint this into something actually useful. Specifically, the notion of why I think this sort of love at first sight or this immediate connection thing is important and why I really hate that it gets demonized. Because that's kind of the vibe that happened here. So, the date itself was good, some awkward moments, but not too bad. And we both decided we wanted to go on another date. Well, the next day happened, and I didn't hear from this person very much because they were working out of sight. I sent them some cute little nudes, and, I got kind of yelled at a little bit because they were apparently at work. And I was like, okay, cool, I'll just delete them. No harm, no foul. We're good. Because I couldn't remember how to do spoilers on mobile, because I'm old.
I don't even know if it lets you in some cases.
It does. You can just click on the picture when it's in your thing. Long story short is, later in the day, I went on their Twitter, and I saw some little cute threads, and I tried to flirt with them. One of them was in regards to their partners, or her partners, I'm going to call it a persona, because that's closest, and talking about wanting to do cute things to these little entities. And I ended up being like, well, what about fae queens? Because, as you know, mommy's a fae. And long story short is this was pushed back with this very literal, very aggressive pushback. And another tweet that I had engaged with had a similar feedback. So we started engaging at some point, and during that night, we started talking over Messenger, specifically Discord. And I'm not sure how the conversation got this way, but I essentially said I would like an apology because I felt like these were unnecessary pushbacks for me essentially flirting.
You got snapped at kind of deal. You were like, hey, a lot of these snapping back at me for like things that seemed like misunderstandings happened.
Yeah, and I got pushback saying I was being passive-aggressive, and then there were further pushbacks saying that there were all these red flags about me. I pushed back and said, well, there's been some flags with you as well, dear, specifically anger management issues, tendencies to be very vague. I'm also intimidated of you. This person was very, very assertive that they were a dom. They were nothing but a dom, so help me God. And that's fine, except for I shouldn't be intimidated by a dom. I should be, turned on. And the problem was I wasn't. I was more intimidated because it felt like it was more about control than fun, if that makes any sense. Like, it was a series of control issues rather than, actually being a dom. If that makes any fucking sense.
Well, the basic of, the dom feeling that we want, people to have is still a feeling of, if there is intimidation, one, it's consenting, and two, it's in.
Well, you're doming the other person because they want it.
They want it, right? Well, it's inside of a container of safety, right? The like at a level inside yourself, you know that this is something that you and this other person are participating for. Like, you're still a full person showing up in this. All right, there's safety, there's context, there's things built into that. Just intimidation right out the gate is not a great sign.
And I'm not saying she was like actively attempting to intimidate me. I'm saying that I felt intimidated. Whether what she knew about it or not, I cannot say. Nevertheless, I gave her this list of it, and she said, "Oh, look at you! Just gave me all these faults. You're attacking me personally." And I said, "No, I was literally mirroring what you said. Like I'm not. I'm saying that like there's like I've already had to do this once where I sort of outlined where I saw potential issues, because she had come at me and said, "Well, I read this thing about borderline, and the thing was essentially a reframing of splitting, except it basically said that like borderline people become like cruel
and stalkers."
And so Loopy decided to put this and say, like, I was basically, people with BTBD are basically stalkers and can become cruel, according to what she read. I don't know where she went. But I basically, she kind of went on this whole thing about, like, discussing this as, like, okay, so, like, are you doing this? Are you idealizing me? And I said, no, I'm certainly not idealizing you. Here are the issues. So I essentially reified that, and she thought I was attacking her. She basically lost her shit. And we kept going back and forth being like, no, I'm not attacking you. I'm telling you, these are the concerns I have as well. How about we talk about them? And eventually we just got sick of each other and she blocked me. By the time I got on Twitter, I had already been blocked on her one account, and later she blocked my not safe for work account. That's fine. Here's the thing. I was pretty fucking upset about this. I'm not gonna lie, what happened is that I really liked this person. A lot.
Mm-hmm.
And your mom sort of had some suicidal ideations come up. I hadn't had an episode that bad for my BPD in a long time, where I was like, man, I could eat this blank. I had to be taken care of for most of the night, because I was just wrecked. This person that I thought I had built up a lot of connection to, who I really liked and felt really strongly about, all of a sudden they were just completely disconnected. All of that work, all that effort gone over a miscommunication and some projection. Not to mention, like, this bizarre boundary. Like, if you thought I was being passive-aggressive, why not reach out and ask me? So, long story short is, I mentioned on stream, I think before, that I had an interaction with Mars Faye, another trans person on Twitter. Leave them alone. Leave Faye alone. They're fine. Faye is fine. It's fine. It's fine. So, I'm trying to remember how specifically Faye does Faye's pronouns, but it's fine. Point being is, because they're different than mine. The point is that I got into a miscommunication with this person. We were twittering past each other, and essentially they thought I was confused as to why they made a boundary about some nudes, and we ended up blocking each other. They blocked me first. They claimed that I blocked them first. That's not what happened on my end, but again, Twitter might be fucking up. The reason why I'm mentioning this story again is because the person that I went on the date with, apparently, I was informed later by folks that this person, Mars Faye, along with the person that I went on the date with, along with another person who has been besmirching my good name by claiming that I have defended this incredibly horrible, toxic trans person that they have yet to produce any real evidence about, essentially had a little powwow, which was cute. I mean, it means we're getting big enough now that I start getting hate groups. That's nice. I also found out that my one of my playmates was had shared some stuff because we had been booted off Twitter. For 7 days we were kicked off because I had made a fairly spicy comment about Gold Star lesbians. Still think they suck. And long story short is they had posted some stuff for me saying, hey, by the way, we're locked out of our account. And they went to my playmate, and essentially, if I'm understanding the context, and this is from them, I'm going entirely by their word, but essentially the context is this person came in there, started asking for information about me, and when that didn't work, they started talking about all the ways this person should be dysphoric, and then offered to dom them for dirt on me.
About that.
That is the allegation. I have seen some of the screenshots. I'm not going to share them here because I think it's inappropriate and it'll show the person's name. But on top of it, I haven't been able to see the one that specifically outlines the offer for dirt or whatnot, because apparently that also contains all the dysphoric milieu, and I'm not pressing for that. So I have to go entirely on trust with this. Now, do I trust this person? Yes, because they had actually thought about going for it and still pushed back and actually stuck up for me. They did the good thing. But again, I'm going by this, so this is an allegation, folks. Do not harass or bother anyone. By the time this got to me, one of my paramours, one of my partners, had done a search and found out that the person in question that I'd gone on the date with had deleted all of their accounts. This includes their Telerin, their Twitter, and that's the ones we knew about. The Twitter just is gone. That is gone. It's not blocked. It's not any. It's literally a deleted account. As is their whatever their version of Curious Cat Telerin or whatever it was. Also just gone. Their partner's still in line, and I wish them well, but just gone. My belief is they did this because they got caught doing the thing that I just mentioned. Or they were afraid because my playmate mentioned that I was going to talk about this on stream at some point, that this was going to make them look bad or it was going to bring harassment. Again, don't fucking do that. But yeah, this is a thing that happened. And after talking to a couple other trans women in my friend circle, I found out that they had bad interactions with this person as well. One of those people was Lady Rain. Another person I will not name because they are a partner of mine and they are not a public persona. As I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, this also led to a cascade effect where I started kind of changing my way of interacting. That sort of set of suicidal ideations and desires had led me to kind of change my intentionality about the way I interact with people, and that has led to some very good things, including partners coming out of the woodwork, people who I've liked for a long time or people who have liked me, and I am having a blast. And I am staying connected to my partner. I am trying to be as caring and supportive of them as possible, and we're actively kind of truly pursuing poly, and check that segment out if you want to know more about that side of things. That's what happened with that date. It turned into an utter shit show. Now, Xena's going to explain what their experience of was watching me go through this and seeing this, because there was a lot of phenomena that I didn't actually get a lot of ground on until Xena brought up their side.
Which parts are you thinking?
Specifically, the way I disconnected. We talked about that recently, is that seemed less like my normal behavior and more like something else going on.
Yeah.
So that, and then also just your feelings of like trying to put your feelings aside through the friendship thing, and then and just the weirdness of this person, the distance, like not actually interacting with partners kind of thing, and just watching me go through it. Yeah, that's the stuff I was thinking about.
God, that was a rough fucking week. That was a lot. Because there was also home stuff going on, and then this kind of took everything by storm, right? So Jess gets real interested in somebody, and we're like, okay. Part of it was we were also scrambling to, okay, what could a potential thing look like? We're in that kind of planning phase anyways in our house of what our future looks like right now. So in terms of, okay, what does, dating partners look like? No, we hashed out some conversations real quick. I enumerated a few things for Jess of like, here's some ways that, some things that you would do. These would just examples of things that would be cool, in terms of like traveling back and forth or potentially seeing people, going like, yeah, no, like we could totally do that. I could help you make the drive, to go see somebody far away, and I don't mind going and traveling around like another state for a few days. That would be fun. That was one of my suggestions, actually.
Yeah, it was a really good one.
Yeah, I would still be down for that. So I didn't realize until later just how much Jess was moderating everything. Like, I didn't realize that this person was connecting and disconnecting as often as they were.
In fact, that was one of the stipulations of the interaction, is apparently when they get angry, rather than dealing with it like an adult and trying to actually engage, instead what happened was they would disconnect for hours, and that was just sort of accepted. Now, as a person with BPD, granted relatively controlled BPD, I was able to deal with that to some degree.
Well, I didn't realize Jess was dealing with it that much. I think we were doing a little bit, but it was quite amazing going like, oh no, Jess was moderating a whole lot of f***ing shit here, like all at once. Like, this is very, very different from when we first started dating and you were really struggling with the disconnection.
Oh yeah, I was a champ this time.
Well, you also had ground on it this time around too.
That's true.
When Jess and I got together, the borderline diagnosis had happened a few months into the relationship, I think. So we were kind of learning a lot of it real fast as we went along.
By the way, thank you, Lena.
Oh, thank you. No, it sucked to see, my partner go from, really, really happy and excited to, utterly distraught over this, because I remember, that night, the shit happening, and it was just so fast over, shit on Twitter that just got blocked all of a sudden, and I'm like, if you really don't want to talk to somebody, fine. I guess in my mind, just outright blocking somebody is just I generally save that for actually severe cases. But that had cemented in here this whole narrative of how toxic Jess had supposedly been, right? I remember seeing the messages that they had sent about BPD. Because it was weird, because they sent and they were explain this. As in, Jess had cheated, and they were explain what happened, right? It had that same tone to it. And had I I went to Wikipedia, looked up what it said about borderline, and I'm like, I don't even know where they found this thing about splitting being the equivalent of
stalking and cruelty.
Which was, and not to say that shit can't happen ever, but that's not what that word exactly means. And it was just such a warped way to read it. Because I just remember, like, that conversation, a few days before, kind of shaking and not really being able to be around for that. Because I was like, no, that does not feel right. That does not feel good. Like, I do not want my partner.
Well, I read you my response, and I thought I was incredibly diplomatic.
You super were. But it's like, God damn, the last thing I want is my partner to get interrogated about their mental illness. It's one thing to discuss it. It's another thing to, like, interrogate about it. Like, that's not what you do. So, oh gosh. So yeah, the disconnection at one point was really rough because I just felt like Jess was all of a sudden just like not emotionally like available. The connection with Jess and I is kind of hard to explain because I feel it on like a deep kind of internal level, I guess. But Jess was just kind of gone for a minute. Not a minute, but like a little while. And just when I brought it up, like, you feel really disconnected. No, Jess was like, oh, that is not something I intended to happen. And no, Jess was dealing with some really real shit BPD and with this person and the disconnection stuff, and that was really, really, really hard to take. So coming off of that, that's honestly probably why it's such a rough time in the following weeks, was that whole everything, now that I think about it. Yeah, actually, because this just went spiraling out. Like, no, it took us both some recovery time, because I really thought this was going to be like, I was really hoping this would be like a fun thing that Jess could do. Also, I gotta be honest, at like our age, especially Jess's age, at like 40, like,
asking like logistics and planning should be like a normal thing, especially when there's distance. I mean, we're talking like a several state distance.
Yeah, it's super normal to be like, hey, do our goals vaguely align for this dating to even work, right?
It's not like you live down the street, right?
yeah, or you're like in your 20s and you're like, I don't even know where shit's going, whatever. But at 40, like, hey, what's your stance on like kids? Or are you looking for a long-term relationship? Are you looking for, just a couple dates? Like,
how do you frame partners when you're poly? You live with you have a nesting partner, so how does that work in regards to it? Like, these are things that matter.
Yeah, there's just a certain amount of like prep work to be like, okay, I know what I'm like, just to have enough to know what you're getting into, to be respectful to people.
Even if you presume some of these are my BPD and me like doing the whole fantasizing thing, which is something that happens in BPD when you're idealizing. You fantasize about like the possible futures with a person. Even if some of it is that's not all of it. Some of it is very real logistical stuff, because I have to plan too about how to have another partner. It's what I've had to do now.
Yeah. How do we effectively have somebody at our house, right?
And like, I can tell you both, one of my current other partner and the potential other partner, I've already had these conversations with, and they went fine. So that's where this was very much like a red flag moment. It was very odd.
Yeah.
And Andrew, I don't need anything but thank you. I'm not trying to ignore you. I was waiting to get to you.
And I was holding Jess for quite a few days. There was a lot going on.
Yeah, I was a f***ing wreck. Let's be very clear.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, by the way.
You're welcome. It's all good. Honestly, at this point, I'm really lucky in the beginning of our relationship, because I did have a lot of support going through this stuff learning how to be there for Jess, but also take care of myself. And my therapist was also really great. Like, she looked at me one day and just went, you can't take in Jess's panic attacks into yourself. You won't survive that relationship. Just flat out said that. And no, she was absolutely right. And so she worked with me on a lot of different tools and really, really helped. So, when moments do come up like this, yes, I'm concerned about Jess, but I'm not feeling like I am negatively, like, personally impacted when these things come up. Those things, just part of being with Jess is sometimes gets hard, and that goes on my end too. So that was a lot. I want to say I'm probably still kind of coming off of like that whole
same here
week and everything.
It's one of the reasons that made me finding other partners, and suddenly all these people are coming out of nowhere so difficult, because it wasn't the people and it wasn't like the idea of me having partners. It was, we were still recovering from all this stuff that happened, and
absolutely.
And then on top of it, there were a whole bunch of life changes happening in the midst of sort of like, oh wow, that was traumatizing.
Yeah. Well, like, and here's the dumb part. Jess and I deal with a lot of mental illness. We're really good at working with that stuff and working through that. Like, that's our jam, right? Hi. Like it super, super helps to be in a relationship with people that are going to be on board with working with you as you work on your mental illness and you work on yourself and do personal work. And that's a lot of what Jess and I have to offer. Like, we don't run from that shit. We try to do the best we can with it, but it was completely unfair to see just getting called abusive and toxic after like a week.
Well, just there was red flags.
A red flag. No, you were actively like called
No, it was said that I had red flags, and then there was sort of this online thing going that I'm essentially like...
Oh, God. Okay, I saw some stuff in...
One person, the person that's been talking shit about me since the stuff in March, basically was like, this person defended this bad person, and also, you know, should someone like this be running a community because of a miscommunication with another trans woman? Like, this is literally how the canceling stuff starts. This is literally how all of the retributive justice stuff starts.
Oh, God, no, we were... Yeah, you want to talk about, like, running a community? Do you know how many people, like, Jess and I reach out to on, like, a week-to-week basis?
Not to mention how many people have had to deal with suicidal ideations, or were dealing with breakups, or were dealing with abuse, people who needed help and resources. There's not a day that goes by that stuff doesn't come up in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
There's a reason why a bunch of borderline people feel super safe in our community.
Right. And we are the hub that gets people a lot of resources. That really is what we do.
We're also the hub where a lot of people who are... No, yeah, it ignores you guys, it ignores Xena, yeah.
The whole team. Like, just what? And
it's not like you guys don't see my behavior or call me out on shit. I've had arguments with all of you. The idea that I do something wrong, like, you guys would call me out in a heartbeat. The idea that, like, I'm somehow a danger to my community is utterly preposterous.
Well, and again, like, coming off of, like, a shitty date interaction, you know, even if that person found it shitty, like, going, let's just escalate the allegations. Let's just do that. Let's just help make this, pour some fuel on this. It'll be great.
Leave it to Twitter anarchists. Anyway,
yeah.
But yeah, so long story short is it's more the Lily Orchard reductionist school of pretending Xena doesn't exist and there are no mods. Clearly, I am leading a community down the path of hell. But
we are degenerates.
We are, in fact, degenerates. That's true. But here's the thing. I do want to find a message out of this. As per our normal agreement that, you know, when we're bitching about this stuff, there's something good to take out of it. And I want to point out something that it's kind of stuck out to me that I want to make really clear. I am one of the most cynical bitches on the planet. I have literally told people that their early feelings of infatuation and love are basically just neurochemicals that are basically making them dumber so that their body can trick them into breeding, which is objectively true. That's literally what pair bonding is. But just because it is that doesn't mean that it's not valuable. Mm-hmm. The thing that we call love at first sight, or the suddenly being incredibly attracted to somebody, or the sudden, you know, the sudden infatuation. Why do we demonize that? Is it because it can lead you into bad relationships? I mean, waiting can lead you into bad relationships. I work with clients all the time that have that problem. So what's the problem? Is it just the fear of, like, falling into something too quickly? Because that seemed to be the issue in this conversation. Essentially, the issue being is that because I was actually really crushing hard on this person, I was somehow in the wrong. Like, I was supposed to move at a specific speed. And I can understand if somebody comes off too clingy or too difficult or whatnot, but I was being as absolutely, like, gentle as I could be, being a terrible flirt, but that was about it, and the flirting seemed welcome. In fact, there was a weird phenomenon where there were times where the flirting was sort of rebuffed, but not like in a rejection or a non-consent way, but in a just not really engaged with. And there were other times where it was pushed back on with more flirting. It was actually really weirdly mixed messaging. And so I guess I just want to take it to this place of, like, there are people here who have real mental illness, people who are neurodivergent or who have borderline, that are going to form attachments quickly, and that doesn't necessarily always mean it's going to be unhealthy or that it's bad. I truly believe this person lost their shit because they thought that I was somehow having a mental issue when I actively went out of my way to make it clear that I wasn't. I should have never had to answer anything about borderline. I should have never had to answer shit about splitting. In hindsight, that was pretty fucking ableist. And I don't mind talking about my disorder. I talk about it all the time. I deal with it. I live with it. It's hard. I'm considering re-entering therapy over it because I want to be able to do poly right. I need people to understand, like, it's okay to form feelings quickly. It's okay to get those things, and it's not always a red flag if somebody gets really, like, attached quickly. Sometimes people just get attached quickly. Sometimes they just they hook up, they click. There have been people that I've met, like Xena, where it just clicked, and I went for it. And I found one of the best relationships of my life.
No, that was super fast. The thing is, though, is even if you click at first and, like, you just kind of rush in, you can always talk it through later. You know, there were definitely times where we had to go, wait a minute, let's kind of plan out a little bit of this, or let's kind of pull back, or let's kind of give this some more parameters. You know, because we were like, no, we super feel that massive connection. Like, that was a thing.
I'm going to be really clear. If you flirt with me, there's a good sizable chance that I will probably crush on you super hard. It doesn't always happen. It's going to happen, though. That's probably a thing. Like, if you're somebody who's going to flirt with me, there's a more than high likely chance that I am going to crush super hard on you, because that's just kind of how my brain works. I develop feelings like that. I actually know a friend of mine who I would absolutely love to fuck, but we're complete opposites in a regard. Like, she's beautiful, she's wonderful. If I ever can get down to her area, I would. But the problem is that she's, if I'm really honest, like, aromantic, you know, relationship anarchist, and that's fine. That's cool. I'm not bagging on it. I have my thoughts on it, but I can't help but catch feels. It's just a thing I do. The idea of, like, friends with benefits where you're just, like, pals and then you just, I guess, bang? Like, I'm sorry. I can't have my head between someone's thighs and not start feeling something for them.
Again, connecting this back to, like, no, you really are, like, a very physical-oriented person, right? Like, the huggles and the snuggles and just...
If some body organ of yours is in my mouth, I'm probably going to catch feels. Let's be clear.
What? Intimacy is intimate? How shocking.
Right?
That's true. Well, like, and again, like, the silly part is these are also the qualities of Jess that I absolutely adore. Like, I love that Jess is bright and shiny and throws herself into things. I have always known Jess to be somebody that, like, throws all of herself into something and goes for it. Like, when she wants something, bam, it's fucking happening, and it's happening fast, okay?
FYI and any future paramours in chat.
Jess will absolutely show up to be like, I want this.
I'd cuddle the shit out of you, Tiamat.
Right? So, like, at least the feels happening, though. Like, feels are just, they're feels, and I get them as a demi-person. Like, I get real intense feels for people I just talk to, and I go, oh god, this is great, I'm gonna send you art things now.
And then Xena gets a squish, which is the friend version of a
squish or a crush, and if I know which until it happens.
But I want you guys to take from this idea that, like, catching feelings early is not this fucking terrible thing. Yes, yeah. Lena, that's okay, though we'd have to negotiate our specifics of how that would work. I don't know if you're talking to me, but Dom mode kicked in, and I was like, we'd have to negotiate.
That's about what I was gonna say. Just as long as there's the right container.
Every time I hear Jess's 48, I'm just like, aw.
Container in the psych way. There we go. Words.
And then you got double dom by me and Jess. Opal's fantasy.
Wait, I think. Do you mean me and Xena?
Oh, me and Xena. Excuse me.
You said yourself in there, just now.
I just pretended I was you. That's what happened.
This one's fun.
Everyone's literally half my age. It's the curse of my fucking server. It's filled with lesbians, and you're all like fucking 20.
Just threatened to bilocate. Anyways.
Oh, thank God, because you're the only one.
I don't know. Also, like, I want somebody to be excited at, like, for dates and stuff. Like, I love that I love feeling that excitement. That's one of my favorites. I love feeling the excitement for things. And yeah, you know, like, sometimes they don't happen. That's fine. But, like, I like the excitement. I like the excitement. So, be nice to my kisses, okay? Jess is really sweet and has a lot of feels, and be nice to her. She's very good.
I'm just gonna say for the record, folks, that, like, I love all of you, and guys, stop throwing out your ages, because I feel like you're testing against my parameters, and it feels weird. I'm just letting you know, like, generally speaking, unless you're real special, I don't date anyone under the age of 25. Like, 25 and up. You have to have your brain development pretty much done, or you have to wow me. So, here's my thing. I gotta be really fucking clear. Like, that whole situation fucking sucked. And I really do think that it came about most notably because I think I caught feelings way too early. And even saying that feels weird, but I don't know. I like love, and I like being in love, and I like connection, and I like feeling connected, and I like touching, and I like sex. God, do I like sex. It's weird because the more I play with other people, the more sexual I get in the rest of my relationships. I don't know why I'm built that way. I've noticed that for a while. That the more I play with people or I engage in certain ways, like, it actually causes me to be more sexual in all my other relationships, which could mean I'm probably kind of built more for poly, which, yeah, that'd be wonderful. My point is that, yeah, you guys are allowed to feel attachments. Can we drop the red flag stuff? Like, we actually start, like, putting things in context and well, not just being like, there's a difference between someone being weird and clingy versus, like, someone having really strong feelings for someone early on. That shouldn't be just immediately looked at as negative, because I feel like that just means you have to sit there and pretend you don't have those feelings.
Well, that and, like, red flags, people keep getting that analogy really borked, because when I say red flags, what I mean is, hey, if you're noticing something, this is a chance to take a step back and look at the situation a little bit more. And the big thing is, if you do bring this up to the person, right, how do they respond? Are you able to resolve the situation with them? You know, are people able to work through things? Even if it takes a minute, that's okay. Sometimes hard shit comes up, that's okay. Yeah, but red flags being like this big, huge end-all thing is just really weird to me, or at least even using them in a weaponizing way towards people might, you know, be its own red flag.
Yeah, red flags can be an opportunity for growth. It's true.
Yep. Yep.
Again, like, if you're just gonna, like, again, I've had conversations in chats where people have been like, yeah, a lot of my past relationships were a lot of people with borderline, and it was really bad for me, and I'm sitting there going, I have borderline.
Well, and like on my end, when I see people demonize red flags, like, yeah, Jess and I have had some really messy moments. There's been, times where Jess, especially at the beginning, there was a lot of fear and there was a lot of like wish to control, exploding, and wish to control like externally. And the thing is like, yeah, these things happened, but Jess was always there to work through them. Jess absolutely showed up for that. And anytime I put down a boundary or hey, I need space right now, I need to, go back home and be at my house for a little while, Jess always honored that. Even when it was really, really fucking hard, all right? And this is somebody that, like, separating causes, like, existential dread, right? Like, that's...
Guys, like...
Jess would still honor every goddamn thing I fucking said, even when I was being stupid, okay? Like, damn.
I guess the thing I want to leave this on is the idea that, like, culturally speaking, we have this idea that, like, love at first sight exists, and I don't mean necessarily the fairy tale version of it, but, like, the you can see somebody and just feel that connection, feel that something. Mm-hmm. And I understand that that's fantasy, that's something, but it does meet some of the expectations and experiences that I think people have. It seems to be a human experience, and I don't think it's always toxic, because it wouldn't be framed in stories the way it is if it was. We tell stories about things the way we either want them to be, or the way they are, or the way we experience them. And I can't imagine that everybody that catches feels or super quickly is by definition being toxic. I feel like this would be portrayed very differently in a lot of circumstances. Mm-hmm. So I guess the thing I want to leave you guys with is just this idea of that, like, I went through hell, I'll live, I'm not going anywhere, but this really f***ed me and Xena up, and I want you to understand that, like, you may date someone that has borderline, or you may date somebody who catches feels very early on, and I don't want you to necessarily demonize that person or lash out at them like this person did to me. So. Yeah,
I agree, and it's hard to be on the outside to see that stuff too.
Yeah, so with that said, I think that's all I got on that one, so Shilibity cut it, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not Schwibbity, but okay.
If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, consider donating to us. You can support us on our website, transgirltherapist.org. You can also help us on our Patreon, link below, or you can become a member here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching.
Hi, LegoManiac856 here, editor of this segment, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I have a YouTube channel that you could check out. It has no coherent theme whatsoever.